to handle used car leads. This can reflect on new car leads too, but with used, I want to take a little bit different approach. And so I'm going to go over some stats and numbers I'm going to put up on the screen here. And I want you to be able to, if you're listening to this on a podcast, maybe check out the video on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, just check out my profile there and you'll be able to follow it with that. But we've been handling internet leads pretty much the same since I started internet leads in 1997. So you're talking almost 30 years. And what I mean by that is we essentially manage leads based on the age of the lead. The fresh leads get called every day, multiple times a day for the first, 5, 7, 10 days. And then after that, we start gapping it out every 2 to 3 days as the lead gets older. And then, once it's 30 days old, maybe once a week or every other week and once a month, or have AI just reach out. And, there's a big issue with that, I think, on how, when we get a lead, we really don't know where they are in their buying cycle, right? We don't know if they're 2 days out or 2 months out. That 30-day-old lead might just got their insurance check from totaling their car a month ago, and they're just shopping around at the beginning. Another thing is, maybe there's reasons why they haven't gave you a call back. And again, maybe it's just the communication. We haven't really given them a good reason to call back. So I want to go through a more efficient way to manage these leads and kind of expose to you other ways that you want to look at lead management. Now, when I talk numbers and looking at things, I'm going to just say, let's look at 0 to 60-day-old leads, okay? Because the numbers will get worse as the leads get older. And so anything I'm referencing here, we're just kind of looking at 0 to 60-day-old leads. Not that you shouldn't follow up with leads indefinitely. I'm just time frame wise, that's the 2-month window I'm going to look at. And so all the data that I'm going to share with you. So there's a few data points that I want you to know before I dig into this. And I've covered this before. One is about, depending on how your inventory is moving, how fast and efficient it's moving, you'll have anywhere from, 60 to 70% of your leads. Here, you can have anywhere from about 40% to 80% of your active leads on sold cars. And again, what I mean by that, the more efficient you're running, the higher that number is. If you're getting a lot of leads and they're selling fast, you might have 70 to 80% of your active leads on sold cars. Again, that's the 60-day window I'm talking about. If your inventory is moving slow and you don't get as many leads, you might have 40% of your active leads on sold cars. So think about that one. We talk about switch leads on the sold cars, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. Let's just talk about active leads where the car's in stock, right? That's a good way to pinpoint a more efficient way to get appointments and sell a car today is actually work leads where they're still in stock. So let's cover that. The other thing is if I take those active leads where the car's still in stock, again, if you had 1,000 and half of them are on sold cars, the other half are not, those 500. Of those 500, about half of those, 250 of them, are going to be on about 10% of your inventory. So if you have 100 cars, you're going to have about 250 leads on about 10 cars. That sounds crazy, but that's how the math sometimes works. So when you equate a lead to an activity, then half the calls and emails you might do today might only impact about 10 of your 100 cars. So that's something to worry about. And then another number is half your inventory don't have any leads at all. Okay, so when half your cars don't have any leads, half your cars aren't going to get any activity calls or emails. It's because your team's just kind of really only working cars they get a lead on. They're working Stacy Wilson lead on a Jeep Cherokee. So the CRM is going to have them focus on Stacy Wilson, not necessarily the Jeep. So let's go over some data. That's some number points to observe. So first thing I'm going to do, again, I'm going to put this over here so I could control this better. I am going to share my screen, which will be this one right here. All right, so let's take a look. This is an active dealer. I just got off the call with them a little bit ago. And in a 60-day window, they have 1,660 leads. So a CRM, a traditional way a CRM is going to run is you're going to have, that's 660 leads or about 830 leads a month. Okay, so 830 leads, you're going to need about 8 people to handle those leads, about 100 a piece. And it depends if they're selling cars or just calling and emailing. You might have 30 or 40 or 50 leads per person. If it's going out to salespeople, you might go up to 150 leads a person if it's just a strict BDC doing calls and emails. But you get my point here is that's a lot of manpower for 800 and 30 leads a month. And again, 1,600 leads over the last 60 days to weed through. That means we're doing, again, managing leads based on age of lead. They're going to do 3-day call, 4-day email, 17-day call, 14-day email, 10-day call. They're just going to do calls and emails to complete their tasks. They're going to log in. Their CRM is going to say, you have 80 tasks today, 120 tasks, and 50 past due tasks. And they're going to do their best job to just weed through that muck. Okay. So one area that we want to focus on, and what we do here is, of those 1,600 leads, 580 are on cars still in stock. If you do the math, that's only 35% of those leads are on cars still in stock. So I just wiped out about 65% of, not that I'm not going to follow up with them, but again, out of 580 in a 30, and that's in 2 months. So what's that? 250, 290 in a month. How many people do you need to handle 290 leads versus 300 or 830 leads? Okay. Again, if we're going to sit down and just focus and do calls and emails today, I'd rather them just focus on the 580 active leads where the car's still in stock and not weed through the other 1,600. When I got free time, I'm going to go through those other 1,600 or those other 1,100 leads. But here's another way to kind of break this down, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about too. What I did with this dealer, and this is where this comes into play, I took a different way to approach. Okay, instead of every day for the first 7 days and so forth, is let's take those active leads where the car's still in stock. Now, these are their 0 to 15-day old leads. Okay, these customers on these cars. Now, what I'm going to have you look at, and here, let's go, is one thing. How old the lead is, 1 day old. How many contacts have been done at that dealership, and then how many should have been done. So here's the math. I think on any lead that's less than 2 weeks old, we should be reaching out probably every day, every other day, right? So what my math was doing is saying these leads, I should be reaching out at least every other day. So here's the math. If I got a 6-day-old lead, if I reached out every other day, I should have done 3 contacts, and this lead had 3 contacts, so we hit 100% of the contact goal. But this lead at 6 days old, we should have done 3 contacts, only had one contact, so we've only hit 33% of that goal. So the goal is to then go see which leads have the least amount of contact ratio, okay? All the way out to 15-day-old leads, 14-day-old leads should have 7 contacts by now. We've only done 3. Okay, well, maybe that's why our sales aren't hitting. And then I totaled it up at the top. A couple other things I did at the top was I looked at what's the average contact gap, okay, because that shows here it's been 2 days, 3 days, 2 days. This is 0 to 15. So they average a 4-day gap on 0 to 15-day-old leads. They done 886 total contacts, but based on the math of call and email every 2 days, we should have done 1,300. So we only did about 67% of the follow-up goal. We changed the price about every 7 days. And then I look at the initial price when they submitted a lead and versus when the latest price was, and looked at the cost of those gaps in contact. Now that's 0 to 15. Now, where it really gets tricky is 16 to 30 or 16 to 60. I think on the older leads, I'll give you a little bit more grace. Again, I should be reaching out every day, every other day if it's an active lead where the car's still in stock, those 580. Okay, but I gave a 3-day grace period here and said, okay, on these older leads, let's reach out at least every 3 days. Easy math. If it's a 21-day-old lead, divided by 3, I should have reached out 7 times, but we've only reached out 4 times, hitting 57% of the follow-up on that particular lead. So as the math goes on, if I got a 30-day-old lead, I should have reached out 10 times, but we've only reached out 4 times, hitting 40% of that goal. So if I do the same math, and here's the thing, here's a lead that, when they submitted the lead, my price was 19 grand. Now it's down to 18 grand. And I'm going to hit on that too, a better, efficient way to manage leads. But it's been $1,000 price deduction since we got this lead 19 days ago. So if here's a $2,000 drop since we got the lead 19 days ago, and we've only reached out 3 times to that customer, and it should have been at least 6. Okay, so that cost me 2 grand in gross between those gaps in contact. So they have on their older leads a 13-day gap. They're calling about every other week. It seems like they should have done 1,400 contacts, but only did 2,600, which is only 54% of that follow-up that we should have done. And the average price change has been 5 days, and it cost me $1,400. Okay, so for every 5 days, think about that. If I'm dropping my price, let's say $500 every 7 to 10 days, and I don't reach out to the customer every 13 days, how much gross am I leaving on the table by not increasing my contact ratio on those customers? So how the total math worked was 0 to 15-day leads where I had a 2-day gap. Okay, the dealership gave it a 2-day gap. They actually had a 4-day gap. They only did 67% of that workflow. And on a 13-day lead, again, they're only doing 54% for a total of only hitting 58% of the goal. So for this dealer, I need them to get more efficient in managing just the active in-stock leads to get more appointments and to increase volume of my sales, because that's the biggest opportunity of sales. Not only am I saving 65% of your workload right now, I don't need as many people on my staff to handle just in-stock leads, but then I need to make sure that contact ratio is there. I don't care if it's a 30-day lead, 50-day lead, or a 2-day lead. If it's an active lead on a car still in stock, let's increase my contact ratio. Much less if this particular dealer has a problem with Jeeps. Right now, they're 19 units heavy in Jeeps. So would I rather them go through and do 100 random calls and emails through 1,600 leads, no rhyme or reason of the customer's buying cycle, no rhyme or reason the car's in stock, and just do 3-day calls and 7-day emails? Or because I have, let's go back to Jeeps, I got 31 Jeeps in stock, I'm only on pace to sell 12 of them in a month, I'm 19 units heavy in Jeeps, why don't I call and email the 170 leads I have on these Jeeps and increase my contact ratio with them? The other thing that I want to show you and why this is a more efficient way to manage a lead is if I take a look at this truck at this dealership and I look at the leads, look at the sales rep, Aaron, Sean, Kayla, Aaron, Steve, Joshua. Okay, there's half a dozen people working these 8 leads. Okay, so Stevie down here calling an email on a 45-day lead doesn't know there's 7 other leads on this, doesn't know we got one a day ago, because again, in the CRM, they're just going to work that lead, call an email, leave a message on a 40-day lead, and have no sense of urgency on that phone call. Hey, it's been about a month, a little over a month. Are you still in the market? Let me know. Well, here's the difference of the information that I want to show them. One, this car has gone from a 35 grand price point to a 32.5 price point. This vehicle is at 94% price to market, so it's 6% below the market average, and there's 8 leads on it. So instead of just calling a 41-day lead going, hey, are you still in the market? My conversation should sound like this. Hey, John, I know it's been about 40 days since you inquired about that Jeep Grand Cherokee. Great news. When you first inquired about it, it was priced around $35,000. We're down to $32,500 right now. So I'm saving you $2,500. As a matter of fact, that's 6% below the market average. And because of that price point, we've got 8 leads on this car, including yourself. And so if I was you, if you're really interested in this car, I would probably come in sooner than later, because this might not last long on our lot. It's a lot different conversation than just doing a 40-day phone call, completing a task out of my 1,600 leads in my CRM. Okay, so there's got to be a more efficient way to manage leads, and lead management should be reflective of inventory management, meaning if I got a Jeep problem, let's call Jeep in-stock active leads on Jeeps. 30-day lead should have 10 contacts by now at least, and we've only done 5. Okay, so lead management should be based on inventory management, and inventory management should be based on lead management. If I've got 8 leads on this Jeep, I want to make sure all that follow-up's happening. That way I make sure that, okay, I'm not dropping my price if I got 8 leads and they've been followed, haven't been followed up with, right? If I look in there and I got 8 leads on this Jeep, and each one of those leads based on the age should have 30 total contacts, because the 30-day one should have 10 contacts. The 21-day old should have 7 contacts. If I should have 30 contacts on this Jeep based on 8 leads, but I've only done 15, well, this car is probably not selling, not because of the price or a lack of exposure. I got 8 leads. It's just I haven't followed the process of following up with the lead, because again, I'm doing 3-day calls, 7-day emails. Oh, it's a 40-day lead. Call them about every other week. Oh, it's a 30-day lead. Let's just call and email them once a week. Oh, by the way, let's just have AI send it out. Let's just have AI and automated emails go out talking about, hey, it's been about a month since you submitted a lead on the inquiry on this lead. That doesn't make sense to me, because you still need to have some person behind it, be able to emphasize and put some tone of voice behind the sense of urgency that they might want to do it. Or imagine seeing you have a lead on a car that's priced at 105% of market. It's 2 days old, and you got 3 leads on it. One, it's priced above market. This customer is willing to pay a premium for it. So I need to, go above and beyond. Not that every customer don't deserve that, but you get my point. So there is a more efficient way to manage leads. If you like to see how we can help you do this, and we integrate your CRM tool. Doesn't matter, Event Solutions, dealers, Socket, eLeads, Drive Centric, Momentum. We've got a dozen CRMs that we integrate with, and we integrate with your inventory management tool, Viato, VinQ, ACV, Inventory, or Max to Inventory Plus. We'll be able to be more efficient with your inventory, help you figure out what's slowing down on your inventory, but also be able to match those leads up to it. That's why it's called Lot Walk. Customers and cars. Every day you do a physical lot walk. Fill holes, look for issues on your lot, meet and greet customers. Same thing is done here online. If you'd like to get help, go to lotwalk.com, sign up for a demo. Hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a great